everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Gary Smith. I'm a junior in computer science here at Princeton, and this semester I've been working on my independent work project called AR Desk, an interactive spatial interface for digital file organization, taking inspiration from our real-world desktops, but making them more immersive, more intuitive, and honestly, a little more fun. Let's dive in. So, you guys probably recognize an image like this. Files everywhere, some kind of system in our head, but not always the most intuitive or efficient way to manage our files. Traditional file management is built just like this, based on a 2D grid with file names, icons, and folders. And while it's been the standard for decades, it doesn't really reflect how we naturally organize things in the physical world. So with AR, we have a chance to rethink this. What if digital files could live in 3D space, like actual objects you could move, group, or remember by location? Well, in other words, my project is all about this, bringing the desktop back to the desk. So using AR to reduce clutter, improve memory for where things are, and make interacting with files feel more intuitive. So, although this is a niche problem, a few previous works have explored spatial or immersive interfaces before, but not specifically for digital file management in the way that I'm thinking about it. So to start, we have Apple Vision Pro's default home screen. It's spatial in that each app has some dimensionality when you look at it, but it's static and web-based and not really about interaction or organization. Next up is Bump Top. This is such a cool project from 2009, which brought physics to the desktop metaphor, which provided fun and benefits, but it never really caught on, and it still worked only in 2D, so either on a screen or later projected onto an actual desktop. Then, there has also been a lot of research studies suggesting the likely benefits of AR for reducing cognitive load for certain tasks, making AR sort of like an excellent choice for a platform to reimagine a desktop. Lastly, the closest thing currently to AR Desk is the Spatial app, which primarily focuses on collaboration and presence, occasionally dipping into like sticky notes and files, what those would look like in AR, but they don't touch on file organization. So my project attempts to fill in all of these gaps, bringing together ideas for usability, gesture-based AR, and effortless file organization. So my approach really centers around three core ideas, which I'll go over now. And the first of that is to rethink what a folder even is. So instead of a flat icon you click, I wanted folders in this system to be 3D volumes you can open, close, and place around you. The second part of the approach is about making interactions feel natural. For instance, you can pinch with your left hand to label an item, and then pinch with your right hand to open an item. These gestures feel simple, but they're meaningful, and let users manipulate files like real-world objects instead of having to navigate menus or lists. Finally, I wanted to keep the interface grounded, but calm and not distracting. Objects should feel anchored and weighted, but also somewhat transparent in their presence. So those are my three goals, and I built this system with the Apple Vision Pro, which handles all the eye, hand, and environment tracking, so users can interact without any physical controllers, which feels quite magical. For development, I used Xcode and Swift alongside Reality Composer Pro to design the ambient materials for different objects in the platform. Finally, Spline was really a wonderful web-based platform to create some of the simple 3D assets you'll see in the prototype, like files and apps. And putting this all together, I'd like to introduce AR Desk, a new way to experience and interact with your desktop. So here's a demo which will go through some of the core features and show you what it's like in action. We start by opening this spatial icon, which is really cool, and then go through a simple setup procedure. Use your left hand to center the desktop, and then can easily place things with your right hand as a trigger and your left hand pointing where it goes. Clicking on the blobs with your left hand, the folders, will show the label, and then you can pinch and drag them around in order to organize them on your desktop. This shows that it still works for files, and then it also shows how if you click with your right hand, that'll actually open the file or folder. You can also tap on the files on the table with your hands to repeat the last action you clicked, so that makes it really easy to open files or see their labels. You can also interact with file previews. So for here, it shows you what it's like to interact with a PDF. And then here is just a preview of what the app previewer looks like. Sweet. And now this shows you that you can also do all of this from a distance, which can feel quite magical. Moving things around, opening files, and what's great about this is that it has a complete understanding of your environment, which means you can place things anywhere. And then in the end, a very simple cleanup procedure. So after building this prototype, I wanted to understand how people would actually use it, and more importantly, whether it really helped them organize and recall files more effectively than a traditional desktop. So I ran an experiment where I compared how participants use a MacBook desktop and then the AR system. So in both conditions, they went through like the same core tasks: a short familiarization period, followed by a file retrieval task, and then a spatial memory test. For the first one, they had access to their desktop, but then for the spatial memory test, I removed their desktop and asked them where things were placed or what color things were. And then before and after these tasks, I also collected information about their general desktop habits and reactions to the platform. So after running the study with 15 participants, I pulled out 3 main insights from the study, and I'll dive into them more in my final paper, but here's the highlights. First, people organize their files in really personal ways. 5 people organize them by color, another 5 organize them by function, and others organize them just by habit. In AR, though, notably, many people took advantage of the real-world objects as spatial anchors when they place their things, which seemed to really help them remember things. So on that note, performance-wise, the 2D desktop was a bit faster, but AR did stand its ground somewhat, especially in location recall, which was just as strong, probably aided by those spatial anchors we just mentioned. And when it came to how AR felt, most users found it intuitive and said the spatial layout helped, even if it wasn't always faster. More on this in the write-up, but overall, the early signs are reasonably promising, which is great. One participant made me especially happy when they said this. The AR desktop made organizing files more engaging, like decorating an apartment rather than filing files in a folder. I think this really gets at exactly what I wanted from the AR desk. All that to say, AR Desk shows a lot of promise. It turns what would otherwise be a passive interface into a meaningful spatial experience most people enjoy. But that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for future work, which there are a lot of. Perhaps the biggest is to add custom labels and add constant labels to files in the AR system. A lot of people found that frustrating that they had to click with their left hand. But additionally, things like improving gesture feedback, letting users customize how files are grouped, and anchoring files more automatically in space would all enhance their user experience. And that wraps up my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I want to give a special thank you to Parastoo Abtahi, my advisor, for her constant guidance and encouragement, to C's for supporting my project user research, and to all of my study participants who helped make this concept a reality. If you're curious to explore more, you can visit the link at the bottom here, and I'd love to hear any thoughts or questions you have. Thanks again.